you all for coming tonight. I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself and my story. I just had my 75th birthday 3 days ago. I still feel like today's my birthday, so I have to reach age 75. And hello, that's my wife out there. Hi, how are you, cutie? My announcement is that I have a new book, Time is Tight, My Life Note by Note by Booker T. Jones. Story of my life. And I'd like to read a little bit from the book to you, and afterwards we'll play some music for you. And this young man sitting here is my son Ted Jones. He's the guitar player. Q&A. Oh, I see. So they're telling me that after I read to you that you can ask me some questions, but they have to be nice questions. So, time is tight. Prologue. Acapulco Gold. Like dinner at a fine restaurant, some have described it. On the morning of February 9th, 1971, I had a saddlebag full of it, which tumbled down when I pulled the saddle off my horse. On the trail riding Skeeter, my polo pony, I shared the weed with my riding friend Glenn Turman, who was never without a generous flask of expensive Southern whiskey in his saddlebag. Glenn waved goodbye at my gate and trotted off to his ranch just north of mine in the Malibu Hills. I put my horse away and hung the saddle and gear in the tack house. Then I laid a blanket on the ground a few yards away to rest and enjoy the beautiful morning on my Acapulco high. The sky was clear, and the crisp morning air felt good to my lungs as I stretched out and recognized an acute sharpness in my perception that I had not experienced before. I felt I could see, hear, taste, smell, and think better. My mind eased into reflection as I lay on the ground and appreciated how the mountains and surf gave me a sense of peacefulness and safety. My adventurous, curious nature had led me from Memphis to this exotic locale, just steps from the Pacific, where I fell into loving the smell of sweaty horses and musty hay. I met new people who stimulated my musical sensitivities. Ramblin' Jack Elliott, Bob Dylan, Stephen Stills, Bill Withers. These Malibu natives were my new family. Life was different here, and I felt deep appreciation for the steady, loving, unwavering support from my parents, teachers, and neighbors in Memphis. I felt secure and stable enough to wander. I loved my new home. Then, the horses started whinnying in the barn. The dogs began barking at the sky. I became aware of a faint reverberation way down deep on the other side of the earth. Paranoia set in. I'm not sure this is the best time to experience my first earthquake. The rumble quickly became a bass drum roll, then expanded and condensed into a violent jolt that shook the ground. The whole ranch seemed to move about a foot. Not getting up with the earth moving around like flapjacks in a pan was a no-brainer, so I stayed put, stoned out of my mind. Only later did I learn it was the Great San Fernando earthquake, strongest in California's history, about to do more damage than you could imagine in less time than you could comprehend. Unaware of the destruction being unfurled around me, I lay frozen on the blanket and stood and took the ride. When the rumbling stopped, I was thankful to be in one piece, still on the earth's crust and not swallowed up into its belly. I took my time rolling onto my knees. After taking my time to get back on 2 feet, I realized the old ranch house was still intact, a veteran of many earthquakes. Billy Nichols, the agent at Louis Bush's Malibu Realty, was thrilled with our $89,000 offer for Lana Turner's 4.89-acre ranch at the end of Winding Way. With $40,000 down, there was no bank involved, and Lana carried the $49,000 balance herself. She made a few surprise visits to collect mortgage payments and survey her investment. The small print in the contract specified Malibu's age-old stigma that no land could be sold to a black. The deed transferred to me anyway. And I stayed in shape by loading my own hay bales at the Malibu feed bin, using baling pins and heaving the big bales off the dock onto the bed of my 71 F-150. When I got home, I loaded and stacked them in the barn, which held 30 tons of hay. My wardrobe shifted from the fancy clothes I wore in Memphis with the MGs to blue jeans, plaid shirts, cowboy hats, and beige fry boots that went up to my knees. Everyone who had a ranch was wearing fries. They offered some level of protection from the rattlers that haunted Malibu's trails with such abundance. Skeeter was not spooked by the snakes and would just speed up when he saw one of the fat females spread out over the road. Not that I was lucky enough to be on the horse for every encounter. There were many times when I was in the brush and a rattler may have been close, so the boots became part of my daily attire. Though I rode Skeeter Western, he was a good jumper, since some of the young girls who used him did it English style. I had a deal with my neighbor, Egon Mertz, an old German who trained Hollywood starlets to ride, that he could borrow my horses in return for riding and tack lessons. Yes, I trained Elizabeth Taylor to ride for National Velvet, I did, he claimed in his broken English. Many mornings I heard my horses trot past my bedroom window. They left the ranch early because Egon had sent a pair of young girls to fetch a quarter horse or my Shetland pony. I never minded. The exercise was good for the horses, and Egon always walked and brushed them afterward, not to mention cleaning and replacing all the tack by nightfall. One day, Egon's daughter, Gina, led us to a trail that sidled past homes in Ramirez Canyon before proceeding under the Pacific Coast Highway into a dark, narrow tunnel that gave access to Malibu Beach. When our horses caught eye of that smooth sand, they couldn't hold back. No pulling on the reins, we let them go, bending our knees, pressing our heels into the stirrups, and hanging on for dear life. Just like in the movies, trots became gallops, and gallops turned into flying leaps with front hooves meeting back hooves. Skeeter bared his teeth, opened his mouth, put his head down a little, pumping his neck front to back. Beach houses flew by. Our hats fell off. We gripped the horses' bellies with our thighs. Sweat flew everywhere. The only sounds were 4 hooves pounding the sand, wind howling, and my pony's lungs whining for air. The ride home was a victory march. Our horses pulled up and stopped at a huge gully with imposing rocks on a beach too wide to cross. On the left, the gully gave way to a majestic ravine whose water fed the Pacific. I didn't know the beach well enough to recognize where we were, but it didn't matter. The horses knew the way home and picked up speed gradually as we got back to Malibu. Skeeter was absolutely soaked, so I put a light blanket on his back. He was dripping as I walked him a bit, so he didn't cool off too fast before watering. After I brushed him, he galloped off to his stall. Welcome to California. The year was 1968, and I was embarking on my spiritual journey. In the library of Rabbi Max Vorspan, whose Beverly Hills home I rented while he took his sabbatical, I discovered Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. I studied graphology, I took up astrology, and before computers showed up and simplified the process, taught myself to do astrological sidereal charts using Greenwich Mean Time. The intricate math was difficult, involving converting birth times geographically from hours and minutes, according to a person's birthplace, to latitude and longitude. The professional astrologers would do charts, and after I peered at one long enough, the answers to unanswerable questions would jump off the page. It happened once when a Malibu friend asked me to read his chart. He sat with me and waited. After a while, it told me he had webbed feet. I asked him if it was true. He took off his shoes and showed me his webbed toes. I stopped doing charts for others after that. Even with all the reading and study, my quest to find meaning and discover my true self was stymied because I didn't know how to meditate. The process was long and tedious, with many side trips that seemed to have no purpose. But eventually, transcendental meditation produced results. More importantly, by helping me realize the precision my guardian angels had employed when they led me through the door at Satellite/Stax Records. What a lost soul I would have been without my Memphis music beginnings. What could have taken the place of the security the Stax family provided? And yet, I was unable to resist the temptations to leave. First to Indiana to study music, and now trading a solid musical legacy to move to California for the freedom to live on a small horse ranch. For the longest time, Stax meant nothing to the city of Memphis. Jim Stewart was an insignificant bank teller with the dream of making a fortune publishing country songs. Sorrowfully flawed for the job, he became the nucleus of a musical corporation of unlikely bedfellows. That slight, frail country fiddler created a sanctuary, a fortress, in enemy territory where the rules of segregation remained a feeble shadow, and where whites and blacks created music together on a daily basis. In that atmosphere of safety, my spirit soared, and my heart barely stayed in my chest during recording sessions with Otis Redding and Booker T and the MGs. The truth is, I was never in it for the money. I loved the people and the music. And the people and the music loved me, and we flew together on a daily basis. The best kept secret in the Mid-South, right under the nose of the Crump dynasty. On the same plots of earth where our forefathers maimed each other, we experienced exalted moments together. This is not to say Jim Crow didn't poke his head above ground. Like working on Maggie's farm, there were periods when the only pay was the rapturous experience gleaned from the music. Those 8 years, and those people, Jim Stewart, his sister, Estelle Axton, Al Jackson Jr., Louis Steinberg, Steve Cropper, Duck Dunn, David Porter, William Bell, Sam and Dave, Wilson Pickett, Packy Axton, Andrew Love, Ronnie Capone, Rufus Thomas, Carla Thomas, Eddie Floyd, Otis Redding, Albert King, Wayne Jackson, Deanie Parker, and Al Bell defined my life. In the prism of music, we became reflections of each other, and over time, we came to love each other, even when we fought. And throughout the whole experience, I was always the youngest, working out who I was and what I wanted to do with my life, note by note.